What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Crew 2, and well, as you all know, the recent summit that was added on Wednesday brought us two new bikes, one of which is the Kawasaki Ninja H2, and the other is the Kawasaki GPZ 900R, which stay tuned for tomorrow for this video dropping, and I'm looking forward to, test this thing out a little bit more. It did better than I thought on the summit there. When it comes to the H2, driving this thing on the summit, I'm kind of mixed on it, to be honest, because you could definitely tell how this bike might struggle compared to some of the other ones with its turning ability. Nonetheless, though, when it comes to the customization, there really isn't too much that can be done to this thing, mainly because, well, it already is heavily customized. You could change the color if you would like. You're not digging that green on there, though. You can make it one of the other colors here if you guys would like. Nonetheless, though, I'm not really surprised you can't customize it because, well, I mean, I don't really know what else you could really do to this thing besides maybe make that front fender carbon fiber there. Besides that, though, there really isn't much that can be done. See, the bike's literally covered in carbon fiber there. Really nice green color, and obviously see that nice little supercharger thing there, which I think that is why this thing struggles on the turns a little bit, because of the weight that it has, and actually feels like that when you're using it in the game. Kind of interesting, to be honest, especially compared to the Panigale R, which weighs things like 396 pounds, something like that. I believe the H2 is like over 530. So you definitely see a big difference there in weight. Obviously, the whole swing arm is carbon fiber there. This thing looks absolutely amazing. Now I'm going to do a top speed run with this thing and test it out a little bit, and then I want to take it on a race and see how it does in there. And I'm going to go over the things I like about it and also the things I think that is flawed on this, why this bike won't take over the Ducati spot in the number one, well, pretty much for every leaderboard ever on all the races. Even in the summit recently, the Ducati Panigale R is pretty much number one for all the no restriction bike races, which is insane. Anyway, let's go take a look at this thing outside. Arriving outside here, you guys can definitely see that the Ninja H2 is absolutely beautiful. I really love how these bikes look. Even in real life, they are just so nice. Let's listen to it. So sounds pretty dang good. Let's go take a look at first person here to see the dash there. It looks pretty cool. See it rev up a little bit. None of the numbers move, it looks like there. Obviously it does show your gear and then your speed, but the other two numbers on the side there don't move, it looks like. Let's go do a top speed run right now with it without further ado. So obviously the first initial acceleration on these normally might be a little slow, and once you get up to speed, they go really fast there. Now I notice when doing top speed runs on the touring bikes, I notice that they all seem to be very similar. Let's go into first person here. This thing gets right up to speed very quickly on a straight line with no issues at all. Not even using nitrous yet. We're already doing 220 miles an hour on this highway over here. Hit nitrous now. 234 miles an hour is going to be top speed, which I noticed a lot of the touring bikes are normally like 2 or 3 miles an hour off from each other. So they're pretty much all very similar on that. The number one thing that comes with these bikes, though, is going to be overall acceleration, and most likely the handling is what will set each one apart. I've been noticing that when testing them out a little bit, because you can tell which some are used and others who are not, because, well, they just struggle in initial handling and stuff like that. The overall feeling of this bike, though, feels pretty nice, but you can also feel the weight of it when trying to turn it and all that, like really sharp, especially compared to like the Panigale or the GP racing bikes as well. Those are very, very light compared to this thing, and you can actually feel the weight of it when trying to turn it. Now I'm going to jump into a race right now and get into this a little bit deeper. When it comes to the Ninja H2, I gotta admit, this thing is a little weird sometimes when racing. I feel like a lot of people will notice that as well when using this thing in the summit race. Now, is it really awful? I don't think this bike is awful. I just think it does have some flaws, and, well, riding a bike in the touring races, these AI love to ruin you, by the way. Nonetheless, though, I think there's a few things about the Ninja H2 that need to be addressed here. So the first thing, well, is the bike fast? This thing is really quick and it has great acceleration. There's nothing wrong there at all. I think the overall issue with the Ninja H2 is going to be the ability that it has to turn and how it actually turns, for that matter. So for this, what I've been noticing when testing it out, and really, Clarence, why are you doing this to me? The biggest thing I noticed here with this bike when turning is how is the stability, and can it get away from turns and into turns quickly, for that matter. So the biggest thing here is obviously being in the right gear on bikes in general in this game is going to help a lot. But the issue with that, when going around these turns, you guys can see, like, for example, this one right here. If you guys are not in the right gear, the bikes lose a tremendous amount of speed. I've been noticing that using the Ninja a little bit. I also think can have some issues here, and my goodness, I need to get away from these AI really fast here. So being in the right gear obviously does help the bikes tremendously. The Panigale R also does this as well with not being in the right gear. The bikes will go around the turns really wonky and have issues sometimes. I noticed with the Ninja, this bike literally has to be in the correct gear every time, or you'll pretty much accelerate out of the turn, or you'll pretty much have issues in every single one, for that matter. I've been noticing that when driving this thing a little bit, and I think that is a big issue. The overall turning issue I'm talking about here is the way this bike can turn left to right quickly. Some bikes have a lot of maneuverability. This one is not one of them, which obviously it is a big bike in real life, so it kind of does make sense on how this thing turns left and right here, though. So going around this turn in first gear, you guys will notice if I went any faster, I can struggle a little bit there, but hitting the nitrous thing gets up to speed nicely, which is one good thing it has going for it. The biggest issue, though, is if you guys are struggling on turns and going slowly around them with a bike like this, you're going to have issues getting a good time. This thing will never be able to actually compete with the Panigale R for that matter, mainly because, well, it's going to struggle pretty hard, and it's not going to be able to keep up with it around turns. That bike is just super fast and super agile. I feel like the H2 is struggling with that really bad. The overall speed obviously is great, but I noticed a lot of the touring bikes for that matter are all pretty dang similar in the speed as well. Even the GPZ is also really fast as well, which that bike will be posting that video tomorrow on that thing. That thing's actually pretty good as well, and that thing has really good turning and maneuverability compared to this bike does, I noticed. Obviously, it's smaller. The weight of this bike, you definitely tell that they did do a really good job at that, because in real life, the Ninja H2 is pretty heavy, which does make sense because it does have a supercharger, like I mentioned, and it is, you know, insanely fast for that matter, so it does kind of need that weight. But when racing this thing on a tight track, for example, like this, you guys are not going to be able to get around these turns as quickly as you would like to. I do think that will be the biggest flaw to the Ninja H2. Nonetheless, though, it could be really fun to race around on, and maybe try to jump in and farm some races if you guys would like. But when it comes to like doing summit races and all that, I don't really think the Ninja H2 will be your best option there. And that is kind of unfortunate, mainly because, well, the bike looks absolutely amazing. I mean, just look at this thing in first person here. It looks awesome. I pretty much drove the street one a little bit here and there, and I could tell these are insanely similar with how they're turning and how they're driving. I know a lot of people don't like the regular H2 in street. Man, I am just failing at riding right now. That bike is not the greatest either when it comes to racing in some areas as well. I don't really like riding it too much. I think the Suzuki's better, or the Honda in the street class, for example. And when it comes to the touring vehicles, I think the Ninja H2 will end up falling way behind compared to the Panigale R, or even the GP bikes that were added. Anyway, here's my saves. If you guys got any questions at all, and let me know your thoughts in the comments below about this bike. Do you guys like it? Do you plan on using it? Let me know in the comments below.